The Mandalorian has returned for its second season on Disney+, so we're looking back at the original 8-episode run. Star Wars' first ever live-action series brought us into the world of scum and villainy, and introduced fans to a new hero and his little green companion who would become an overnight internet sensation. This is The Way, today on Script or Screen.
Hello and welcome to all you lovely listeners. Happy Mando Monday. My name is Chris Kitchen. I am the co-host of Script or Screen, alongside my other co-host, Zach Strackman.
Hello.
Zach, how are you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
I am hyped. This is our first ever Star Wars episode.
Oh my god.
We have been leading up to this for 8 other episodes. This is episode 9, The Mandalorian. We are here. The new season's here. We loved it. We don't know if we loved it. We haven't seen it yet. This is actually being recorded the Monday before The Mandalorian's
this episode is I guess scheduled to drop a few days after the season 2 premiere.
Right. I mean, our original schedule was something like we were going to have it come out on the Friday of, but I think we decided we were going to go the day after due to some
blame coronavirus.
I think in every episode thus far, we have blamed coronavirus and the pandemic and social injustices for a lot of things, as is. So I don't want to keep throwing those things under the bus.
You don't want to be unfair to coronavirus,
right? But this is so exciting. Finally,
yeah.
I don't know about you. I personally am a big Star Wars fan. Always have been. Always will be. That's how I feel.
Yeah. If I look at my desk, I have a Stormtrooper Mr. Potato Head.
Do you really?
Yeah.
That's an awesome little.
He's got a lightsaber. What do you call it? Potato masher.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I have all of my favorite Star Wars movies on various disc formats. Not all of them, because I don't like all of them, but I definitely have the ones that I do like. And
what do you mean you don't like all of them, Zach? All Star Warses are perfect Star Warses.
It's actually, I don't know if you know this, it's not true. And I love Star Wars. I grew up with Star Wars. I was Luke Skywalker for Halloween one year. I had his... How
did you work around the cut off hand? Or were you like Return of the Jedi?
I was Return of the Jedi. So I had the black suit. I wore a glove. I had, as a kid, I had Luke Skywalker's green lightsaber, the collapsible plastic one.
You ever wonder why Luke Skywalker put a glove over like his robotic hand that had skin on it?
Because, I think it's because in Return of the Jedi, he gets shot in the hand, and so he has just this exposed area of like wires and stuff. And then they said, "Oh shit, we gotta have that for the whole movie, don't we?"
That's too gruesome. Maybe that was one of the things, like they needed to include that because the movie was like PG-13?
No, the first PG-13 Star Wars movie was Revenge of the Sith.
Oh wow, so that's something else.
Yeah.
So I guess that's probably why they had to include a glove as well.
I mean, it could be. I think it makes him look cool. It's that duality of Luke Skywalker.
I will say that. I will agree with you there. But before we move forward with anything Star Wars, we need to address something that we forgot to address at the beginning of many of the other episodes before. And that is, to the fans of Script or Screen, the longtime listeners, thank you so much.
The 3 of you.
Yeah. Hey, there's like at least 30 people.
Okay.
I mean, on average. I don't want to talk about analytics.
We appreciate all of you. We appreciate your ears.
And I just want to say thanks for listening. If you like Script or Screen, follow us on all of our social media pages. That's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We're also on YouTube. Share it with your friends. don't forget, if you have a message you want to send to us and you want to be featured in one of our podcasts, go to www.scriptorscreen.com or anchor.fm/scriptorscreen, and you can leave us a little voice message there. Maybe you could appear in a future episode.
Comment on our posts on social media, on our Facebooks and Instagrams, with suggestions of what you want to hear us talk about in future episodes.
I think that gives us, or I guess that leaves us back at the episode. I think that's most of the housekeeping we have to take care of.
So, yeah, we got us this here. It was a new thing for Star Wars, new territory, live action television.
So, I know you're not as familiar with Star Wars television programming, right?
So my experience is obviously the movies, and then I was a huge fan of the Genndy Tartakovsky The Clone Wars micro series that ran back in the day on Cartoon Network.
I still have those on DVD.
Those are
awesome.
The coolest like Star Wars thing ever. One of them. And then I remember when the Clone Wars animated movie came out, and I said, I was old enough at that point where I was like, oh, this is just a shameless marketing cash grab. And then I never really had much interest in the show, even though I've heard that at times it is quite good. It just never was something that really interested me.
So the movie, I guess the Clone Wars animated movie was actually super interesting, right? Because I looked it up a while ago. Evidently, that was the project that Dave Filoni left working on Avatar Season 1, as we talked on an earlier episode, to come work on Star Wars and on that project. He became, I want to say, the leading creative force behind George Lucas, who was very much involved in the development of the Clone Wars, the Clone Wars movie, which was actually 4 episodes that they had written, just put together. That was the technical starting of the show.
And I know, like, I have seen parts of it, and I've seen, separate episodes of Clone Wars. I've never sat down and watched a season or a whole arc of episodes, but that movie, it kind of came across to me as a bit more childish.
I would agree.
More kid oriented, which is kind of a lot of stuff for George Lucas. If you do the reading,
I would say the due diligence.
Yeah, of like kind of his ideas, especially post prequel movies. He has some stinkers, but
I don't know.
As I understand, the Clone Wars series was good. Rebels was supposed to be, as I've heard, pretty good, if not a little, also a little kitty.
I would say for the most part, a lot of, these shows were very serial in most of the, they all had overarching stories, and they all tried to do the same thing where they tie the events between episode 2 and episode 3 together. And then again with Rebels, but it ties between episode 3 and episode 4, pretty much. And there are a lot of really great moments. There's a lot of really great world building in like the Star Wars universe, and then a lot of fan service and things as well. Because you're dealing with, Rebels, you're dealing with brand new characters, and then just legacy characters, and then
I was gonna say
the Clone Wars, you're dealing with all everybody that we know. We just get more backstory and of Anakin and Luke. And
I was gonna say I've seen only one episode of Rebels, and that was Twin Sons, and that's the famous rematch between Obi-Wan and Darth Maul. Spoilers, I guess, but
I'll tell you what, the cartoon did a really great job. it didn't have any help from the movie, the fact that they killed off Darth Maul, and there was really no reason for him to come back. But the fact that he was back and the kind of arc that he had going forward, I want to say he was probably one of the stronger parts of the series.
I will say for what I saw, I liked it. One of my biggest complaints with the prequel movies is that they turned, and this is by their own admission, they kind of made the lightsaber fights like dances, and while they're elegant and acrobatic, they don't feel real. And I like that in the one singular episode of Rebels I saw, there was a very short and violent lightsaber fight, and that's the kind of stuff I like to see in these kinds of things.
I mean, then you haven't seen much, my friend, because those shows have some that's really great, and you should watch them. Or,
I might. One day I might.
Is it? I think you pointed out a while ago to me that there's like fan cuts of the show, like of episodes you could skip, and they just kind of give you like these are the most important episodes. Yeah,
I've seen lists,
something like that.
And maybe one day if we decide we want to cover that, I might sit down with like one of those fan lists and kind of cuts away the fat a bit, and delve into it.
But till then, we are left at the beginning of a new series, a new live-action show brought to you by... A new live-action
show.
The Disney version of Star Wars, in a way.
Yeah. The post-Lucas, what do you call it? The Great Purge of the expanded universe.
That's topical.
But I won't get into it right now, because I think later is when we'll have, our deeper opinions on like the Star Wars machine. But the one thing I have been dying to see from Star Wars is original stories that are wholly separate from the movies, from the established characters. George Lucas hit pay dirt. He invented an amazing universe that is fun to play around in and rife with amazing story potential. But the way that a lot of the stories are told, you feel like this universe is like, a mile across. So I was really excited when they announced The Mandalorian and it wasn't going to be Boba Fett, and we were going to get a cool original story with new characters. I said, yes, sign me up immediately.
So at which point do you feel like... not at which point do you feel like you became a skeptic? Because I don't think we ever were this skeptic. I was ever very skeptical.
I think going into season one, we were. I don't think you could have been more hyped than we were.
Yeah, I would say I was pretty excited. They premiered the first bit of footage, and I don't want to say the announcement of the show, but I think it was 2019 April during the annual Star Wars celebration. Around the same time they showed like one of the first trailers for The Rise of Skywalker, I believe. I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I think before then we had already gotten news that Jon Favreau was going to be the creative force behind it. And we know Jon Favreau has the history of working with Disney. When he did the live action adaptation of The Jungle Book, he's done Iron Man's 1 and 2 working with Marvel. Yep. And not to mention, he already kind of had a working relationship with some veteran Star Wars players like Dave Filoni with their work. I mean, what was it? Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau were introduced when Favreau was doing Iron Man 1 for Disney, I think is what it was. And he was working at a Skywalker ranch, and I think Filoni was also there, and they swapped scenes and swapped parts. I think Filoni even has like a small credit in Iron Man as well, if the story is right. But I feel like ever since then I realized like, okay, like this could be really cool, and then we just kind of get to see all like that showcase footage. I don't think it was an actual trailer. It was more like the real sets, like you get to see like I think they even showed like a little bits of like the Razor Crest, that is the ship that the Mandalorian travels through the galaxy in the series, like how they took that from miniature to, amazing, added special effects and lighting to make it look as real as possible, like on screen.
Right.
I really feel like and even the other movies, like they kind of played on that part as well. Like they were going to do this thing like as Star Wars as possible, like true Star Wars in a way, and that really, it gave it a lot more people a lot of hope.
It was a new hope, huh? There's your obligatory Star Wars fan service, huh? We'll get into that kind of stuff later as we delve into it. I think going into it, it was like, how could this be? It's funny because this is how you hear people talking about episode 1, and I know like one day we'll get into episode 1. There's some people that love it. There's some people that don't, and this is kind of similar to, you go, well, God, you have all this great stuff, and the stuff that we have seen looks amazing, and how could it not live up to every expectation? And I would say for about half the season, it really, it definitely, maybe there wasn't like jaw-dropping stuff, but you're like, this is pretty good.
I would say on first viewing, everybody was really amazed with everything that they saw, though.
I can definitely say, again, without delving too deep into our opinions right away, but there is a point about midway through the series that I think it takes a colossal dip in quality for a couple of episodes, before rising back up like a jetpack equipped I don't know, Mandalorian, but I don't know where I was going with that, but I don't know, this show, it's got some high highs, it's got some low lows, and I think on the first time I watched it, even those low lows, as much, I think they bothered me a lot more the second time around when I knew they were coming, because it was like kind of like a hill I had to get over, rather than like I was experiencing it for the first time and be like, okay, well, I mean, not what I would have done, but at least it's my first time experiencing it.
Yeah. Here, I want to start off like we do in every other episode, with a brief synopsis of the show.
Oh, yes.
I assume anybody who's listening to this knows of the show in the first place, and if not, we will be covering spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers. Do yourself a favor. Go get a Disney Plus account and watch this show, because as much as I may naysay on a couple of things, this show's actually pretty cool, even visually alone.
I would say you don't necessarily have to be a Star Wars fan to get into the show, but being a fan of action and Western and space would also be rather helpful.
Yeah, so hit him with that synopsis.
I have two that I'm going to read from, because one's about a sentence and the other is a little more elaborate, which I like. So here, the first one I'm reading is from IMDb. Cool. It goes as such. The travels of a lone bounty hunter in the outer reaches of the galaxy, far from the authority of the New Republic. And that's the first one.
Wow.
So, yeah. So that's The Mandalorian. And now here's The Mandalorian from a separate site. Set 5 years after the events of Return of the Jedi and the fall of the Empire, The Mandalorian follows a lone bounty hunter in the outer reaches of the galaxy. He is hired to retrieve the child, and chooses to go on the run to protect the infant. While on their quest to learn more about the child's origins, they are pursued by Moff Gideon.
That is, I'm going to say that's a very misleading synopsis.
I don't know if I like that one either.
Okay. Well, how about this?
Let's get into the show and tell you why we don't like that.
Okay. So let's start off. Let me just see, just as a jumping off point, this show features a pretty good cast. Just going to list off a few names right off the bat. Pedro Pascal in our lead role as Mando, as the Mandalorian. We have Carl Weathers, Mr. Apollo Creed himself,
Woo!
as Grief Karga. We got Gina Carano coming up as Cara Dune. We have Nick Nolte as Kuil. I have spoken.
Kuil is actually a really great character.
Yeah, he's awesome. Taika Waititi as IG-11.
Whoa.
And then a couple of our big bads. One, Werner Herzog as the client. He doesn't get a name.
I'm gonna quietly clap because his performance is just stunning.
He's wonderful in this, and hearing him talk about Baby Yoda is terrific. And appearing in like the very end of the second to last episode, and then having a bigger presence in the finale, and then moving forward, Giancarlo Esposito as Moff Gideon. And I mean, if there was ever a person I was happy to see land in this series, it was him. But honestly, this show had a lot of really cool guest stars, and I think we'll cover those as we go through the episodes. But there's some cool faces that pop up in this.
I don't know if you remember, because I don't think I can. But was Giancarlo Esposito, was he teased at all?
No,
I think he was briefly. Like there was just his face, but
I think the first I heard of him being in it was when his voice sounded, or when he first appeared, and I said, "Oh my god!"
I mean, as a fan of his, the infamous Gus Fring in the Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul
Gustavo
series, I feel like I know I'm gonna say that was like my first time I think I realized who he was and seeing him in a role, and then I've actually gone back and seen like other things that he was in. I mean, because he's been an established actor for the better part of 30, almost 40 years.
He's been around, yeah.
Yeah. But what a very talented face and I guess performer he was. Just kind of like in this series. Very. I mean, I can't wait to see where they go with his character, because honestly, we only got to see so much of him. Unlike the premise that I read. It's not always him chasing after these guys.
Yeah, he like I said, he's in it for a little over an episode, but his presence, I think, speaks for a lot of his significance, I should say. But let's get into it. So we start off with the first episode, which is The Mandalorian, and directed by Dave Filoni. Written by Jon Favreau. I believe Jon Favreau, with the exception of 2 episodes, episode 5 and episode 6, Jon Favreau wrote this entire season.
He's a talented writer. What can you say?
He knows what he's doing. So we get our first episode, and it's just it's more of like a setup, more than anything else. Just getting you into the idea of who this man is.
Well, I mean, you want to talk about television show pilots, right? Because that's what this first episode is. It's a pilot for the rest of the series. I would say once we get into like our second half, really we're at the point of the climax to the finale of the episode. Oh my god! I mean, the first setup is kind of incredible too, right? You get well, actually, I'm going to take that back. I was a little off put by some of the introductory stuff.
Well, I'll say this, just going off the beginning, the first thing that is apparent when you watch it is when I hear of like television shows and especially sci-fi, the first thing I think is budget and how good is it going to look. And so that was one of my big points of relief when I first tuned in to watch the premiere, was that it looks great. The effects are top notch. This is a clean looking show. Let me tell you.
I want to say the budget for this show is about like $100 million, at least for the first season.
Let's find out.
I'm almost positive it's that. And then divided amongst. And then I mean they had a pretty good What Jon Favreau said was that the upfront costs of the show were a bit, right? Like it kind of took up a lot of the budget, which is why we get certain stories the way they are.
Yeah.
Funny enough, this show's kind of like a not a starting point. I don't know. That's the wrong word. They used a lot of new technology, as many Star Wars films have done in the past.
Right. So what is it they call this this technology they used to film this series?
You want like these CGI green screen, so to speak?
It has a specific name, and I can't remember.
Oh no, Zach, you're making us look ill-informed.
I know.
It's like a 360-degree video wall.
Yes. Excuse me. It's called Stagecraft, and created by ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, and to basically, it's a soundstage, and they can project sets onto it. So you can have your characters act out scenes and look like they're on a cool backdrop.
Without necessarily being on location, right? Like in the deserts of Jordan, or I'm trying to think where they shot the first. The first one was shot where? The very first Star Wars film.
Oh,
Tanzania? No,
maybe I don't remember.
I'm getting it wrong.
But that's not to say that there are no physical sets in this series, because there definitely are, and a lot of them look great.
But I want to say that they definitely, focused on making this new technology, these digital backgrounds and just these version sets to work with them and play. Like they couldn't shoot the very first scene opens up. We're on this weird snow-like planet, very wasteland snow-esque, and where I don't know where that exists on planet Earth. I'll be honest with you, Zach.
Couldn't tell you.
But I think they did the best that they could with this new technology, and the way they shot it.
There are a few times where it comes across a little not perfect. The compositing is just a little off at times.
But for the most part, it gets the job done.
Yeah, it definitely.
I want to say, like, on first viewing, I don't think I noticed it at all. I was super impressed with the way they did everything.
There were a couple parts where I could tell, like, sometimes a character standing around, they look a little weightless compared to the environment, but like
right.
This episode so much more so didn't bother me so much as there's some stuff later on where I was like, ooh, that didn't track exactly perfectly. But
actually, I would say the rewatching of the series for our podcast, it was only like in maybe the first and the third episode where I really noticed it, and then the rest of I don't think I paid much mind to it after that, or I don't think I really noticed.
Okay, well, so let's dig in. We got our boy Mando. He strolls his way into a bar. It's a cool opening scene. Lets us know right away who this guy is. He shows up. Everyone's eyeing him, and I
guess he ruined some sort of interrogation that was happening at the moment, or maybe they were just like hazing this poor. I don't even know what race he is. Or what's called. He's kind of fish-like. He was blue.
He's
not very Dory looking,
played by Horatio Sands of SNL fame. And Mando shows up. Everyone kind of turns on him. We get that cool shot. It was actually, I think, the shot that like the trailer really marketed of him just cleaning everyone up in the bar. He gets that guy with the cable and pulls him through the that aperture door that
it just kind of closes in at just the right moment. I don't think I've seen a more violent death in Star Wars.
Well, you didn't see it because it
was alluded to. Excuse me.
It cuts away and then is alluded to. Yeah. By a well-timed slicing sound. But it's hey, gotta keep things clean.
Gotta keep things PG around here.
And then we get this. I think that's you start to see a few cracks right away with Horatio Sands' character. He's a bit of dork, and he definitely does it, bouncing off Mando.
I would say it's something that's not very not that we're familiar with it in Star Wars. Because it's like I can't even think of Jar Jar acting the way that he did.
Yeah, he's like
it was a weird performance. It was a weird character to have. He felt more realistic, like into our world than fitting into the Star Wars universe.
I think we'll see that a couple of places in this series where, and I think it might be a result of so many different hands, a lot of cooks, and
I also want to say though, like when being familiar with Jon Favreau's writing, like he's a comedic writer, or like comedy, I think was what he got started in, and so. That bleeds into things like this because there's a couple comedic moments in the show.
There are some very good comedic moments, but
I feel like that's kind of not him projecting in there, but like if Jon Favreau played a character that you could see his face, and right because he plays a character in this show, but like that he would have played that character as well. It just looked like a role that he would have taken.
I mean, the character is just luckily. Yeah. I don't think we have to get too hung up on this guy because he doesn't last very long.
No, he gets carbonated and he's good to go. I did want to add something.
Yeah.
A very very delightful surprise for me when watching this very first episode was in this scene in the bar, the bartender tells Mando, like, oh, you spilled his drink. Yeah, I'll get you a new one. Don't worry about it. And the actor that plays him is John Beasley. I actually had the opportunity to work with him like 6 months prior, like in June, earlier 2019. And I'm like, I wish I would have known that he was going to be in this. It's not that I would have harassed him about the show, but it's just like, oh man, that was a very cool opportunity for me to work on a set with him and then see him later on.
That's very cool. But we get again some of these cool little like that you see them, they're there and they're gone. Brian Posehn, funny comedian. He is the
speeder
driver. Yeah, exactly. And he shows up for a little while.
What's crazy is that I can't believe the galaxy far, far away finally got Uber. That's
Oh, we get a cool little moment right before Brian Posehn. There's a droid piloted speeder and Mando's like, no droids. So first, we get our first little inkling that there's something about Mando that he doesn't like the droids, and maybe we'll find out why as it continues. But he takes his cool Razor Crest to deliver a bunch of these bounties in this town. What's the town called again?
Oh, the planet, I think, or the town's called like
Navarro, yeah, that's it. And
I mean, in that scene alone, we are, we get this great we get these great images of Mando with all of his bounties, and so he's a pretty good bounty hunter right off the bat. We get and he also has a mobile carbonite freezing station.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only been how many years since Empire where they tried it out? One of the first times, I want to say.
Right. Well, it worked. So
yeah.
Boba Fett they found a way to spread the word.
Yeah, I was gonna say they found a way to integrate it into the starships now. And that's pretty awesome, I'd say.
And speaking of which, this is like where we kind of get our first major explanation of where in the timeline we are. This is set a few years after
5 years.
5 years? Okay, so 5 years after Return of the Jedi, the Empire has fallen. Imperial credits are really not... He won't even take Imperial credits from Greef Karga. Oh, this is where we meet Greef Karga. Carl Weathers shows up. He is every bit as much a showman as Apollo Creed was. He's kind of the leader in Navarro. And... when Mando comes in, he kind of showboats and he makes a big deal out of it, and it's really kind of fun to watch him kind of character act a bit.
I would say, most of his acting, I would say, was pretty enjoyable throughout the entire show. I don't think at any point I felt it was weird or his character was weird. Horatio Sands was a lot weirder. I think he's probably the weirdest character in the entirety of the show.
He's up there, yeah. But I like, you can tell by the way people look at Mando. He's, a lot of people are very itchy around him. They see him as a threat.
I would say being in the presence of a Mandalorian, a full-fledged Mandalorian through and through, is pretty intimidating, I would say, given their incredible
job security,
reputation, and things of the sort.
Right. And it's that reputation that gets him a little side job from Grief Karga to visit somebody who has an unspecific job that will change this Mandalorian's life.
Yeah, he gets the big job, but we then find out through some other incredible world building and legacy character providing. He appears somewhere else in this town in front of a security door, in which our lovely eyeball security droid pops out and goes bubba looba. That, oh my god, I love that thing. I just love that
Jabba's palace. Yeah,
how expressive he is as a droid.
Well, I want to know, is it a droid or is it a thing? Because when later in the season he grabs it out and it screams.
It's a super oh my god, it's a great moment.
It's a good Star Wars little thing. I do think about these things where I go oh my god, it's another reference. But then I go, you know what? Sometimes I'm okay with it. And right there, I was okay with it. But what's cool is when he goes inside and the first thing he sees is stormtroopers, but not pristine,
not
shiny
the way
white.
We're used to seeing them.
Dirty, gritty, just crappy looking stormtroopers that look like they have been, living in
squalor.
Exactly.
Here's my thought: is that just now that the Empire is gone, they just kind of let the standards go down. They're like, yeah, you don't need to clean your armor every other day now.
Well,
anymore.
I think the Empire is just it's gone. I think the people who are kind of lurking in the shadows, they're doing their best just not to be probably wiped out by the New Republic.
Yeah, I guess it was just a small thing I noticed. I like the detail, right? That they're not clean, they're not like what they used to be. Mm-hmm. But then it just raises the question, just why don't you just wash your armor when you're off duty? Yeah,
because they don't care, man. They don't care anymore.
I guess.
If there's one thing, a scene later, I think in the finale will show us is that the stormtroopers just don't really care anymore.
Right.
But then we meet Werner Herzog himself, the client, who is just all kinds of menacing. Werner Herzog, I put the notes in here. I think I was talking more about the second to last episode, but he can say literally anything, and it will sound intimidating.
I would agree. At least in all of his English roles or English speaking roles, I would agree to that point. I don't think I've seen any in his native language.
Again, I think of the advertisements for the show, and I think they really marketed on the whole bounty hunting is a dangerous profession. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I would say he definitely puts off this creepy vibe, and the fact his costume is also very interesting. Right, he has this golden Empire emblem pendant around his neck, and these really they're almost fancy looking robes. To be honest with you.
It makes you wonder, was he a former chairman, or was he a some kind of royalty?
I was gonna say maybe he was some sort of moff of some sort, or a governor,
maybe a benefactor.
Yeah, what kind of imperial enthusiast was he? I don't know. It does raise a lot of questions. But we're not supposed to get all the answers in the very first episode.
Yeah. So what I like is when he gives Mando this job, and it's the setup's cool because he goes, I can't tell you where he is. I can't tell you what kind of thing you're walking into. I can only give you his last known his last known location and his age, and it's 50 years old. And So going in knowing nothing, this is such an awesome misdirect because we're still kind of like hardwired in our lizard brains that when we hear 50 years, we don't think in Star Wars terms, we think in real world terms.
Yeah, I agree. It's it was a very interesting surprise, at least when we get comparatively to what we get at the very end.
Yeah.
But I mean, like even then, because following that moment, you know, we get a little bit more of the bounty worlds. Like he wants to give him like a deposit for his payment, and then he reveals another piece of the world building, the Beskar steel of the Mandalorian. Steel,
yeah, that is the coolest. It's got that cool like ripple to it, like Damascus steel in the real world.
Yeah.
Highly valuable, highly what's the word? Sentimental to the Mandalorian culture.
Yeah. The creed, if you will. The religion as they refer to later on.
So but yeah, so he slips him a few blocks of it and gives him the tracking fob, and Mando's off on the hunt. But first he's got to make a stop.
His little home, the covert as it's called.
Yeah.
Where some of the other Mandalorians are in hiding.
Mm-hmm. And they all look pretty badass. They got like, you know, their antenna or their jetpacks, and
there's even children running around with little Mandalorian helmets.
Yeah. And then you get the armorer. I can't remember who plays the armorer. Probably someone cool, but
probably.
She's
I can't imagine
cool.
Someone that's not cool works on this show.
But she tells him like, you know, oh, this is a great thing you found.
It's Emily Swallow, by the way.
Emily Swallow. Good job, Emily Swallow. But she's like, you know, oh, we'll be able to craft you a new shoulder pad, and we'll save some for the foundlings. Again, a lot more world building.
The foundlings are the future of the Mandalorian culture.
And again, we're drip fed little things of Mando, that he was a foundling, and then as the armorer's pounding away on his armor, we get these flashes.
Which we assume are young the Mandalorian, which is his name, just kind of being raced away by who we can think are his parents.
Yeah.
During this battle on his hometown, and we're not really given much
explosions and dust flying.
So he comes from a place where, you know, war was very much embedded to, you know, his growing up, and you know his survival is just kind of like a sign of kind of what he does, or just what he was kind of raised on.
Yep. So once he is armed and ready, he heads off to this planet. I don't think we get a name for the planet he goes to, do we?
Not that I can remember. I just know that we are introduced to this interesting, you know, these sets of creatures that really put back the Mandalorian's travels.
Yeah, they kind of mess him up a bit until they are, you know, I guess pacified by Kuil, a little Ugnaught.
I don't know about you, but I love the fact that they brought the Ugnaughts back, because we got a little glimpses of them in things like The Empire Strikes Back.
Yep.
When they're in the carbonate, just like the refinery in Cloud City.
They bust up C-3PO.
Exactly. And I mean, like, if you're familiar with other Star Wars properties and expanded universe things like the video games, like, you'll get to see these creatures just kind of like out and about. Like, I remember playing the Old Republic games and stuff growing up. They would have these creatures that you interact with. They didn't speak English or common tongue or whatever the language is considered in the galaxy far, far away. Mm-hmm. But it was just really great to kind of see these creatures. They also made Kuil a little taller, I feel like.
Well, possibly. I mean, he's maybe he's just a tall dude. But what I like is that, you know, as we go on with the series, we will learn a lot more about Kuil and kind of his whole thing. But, right away he's very he's already got like his catchphrase, I have spoken. And he is he's
just like a very simple but also like really attractive kind of character.
Okay, like, if you find Ugnaughts attractive, that's...
no more. But like, it's just I feel like drawn to like I want to listen to him more. Like I want to hear.
He's a great
like,
character,
and he gives some really good lines. Like, you're a Mandalorian. Like I've never met a Mandalorian. I've only read the stories.
Yeah,
giving us this great mythology, or like that there is mythology.
When he's pep talking him to ride the blurg. And he's like, your ancestors conquered the space beast or whatever.
Yeah, it gives us like a lot of really like just kind of great world building and leads us.
This first episode's, I would say it's so good. There's so much going on in this first episode. But Mando eventually gets Kuil's help. We don't even know his name's Kuil yet, actually. I think we don't learn that until, like, episode 6.
Yeah, he's just called Ugnaught, or referred to as...
He's just the guy.
Yeah.
And he leads Mando to this town that has been, like, he's saying, like, hey, we've had a bunch of people show up here, and they all go to the same place, and they all die every time.
They wreak havoc amongst my valley or something of the sorts, and
so
he's just looking for peace.
Yeah, and who better to bring it than one of the best trained killers in the galaxy?
He will make quick work with them, is what he said.
Yep, and he goes down, and we get another fun introduction. IG-11, voiced by Taika Waititi, who I think before this series, when things were first, I think the first teaser that came out, everyone thought he was IG-88. For all you non-Star Wars nerds out there, IG-88 was in what's it called? Empire Strikes Back.
And then again in later. Well, I feel like they then kind of released more IG units like across the franchises. And
Empire Strikes Back, it brought us like Boba Fett and IG-88 and Bosk.
And Dengar and Zuckuss.
Dengar, who's just a guy with a towel on his head.
What's funny is I have a poster with Dengar that is not up in my house, but I have it rolled up for the day I want to get it framed.
Everyone's favorite Star Wars character, Dengar. but yeah, and you would think like a droid, a lot of times these droids, they're not played for too many laughs, and I would say overall IG-11's a pretty, straight shooting character, no pun intended, but I think Taika Waititi gets some pretty solid laughs out of this dude.
You remember we talked about Interstellar in our inaugural episode. I think it's Case or either one of the robots, TARS. Oh, both of them. They have like a comedic setting, or like a humor setting. I feel like IG probably has this humor setting set to like maybe 25 to 30%, because there's just something in the cadence of his words or just how he says like I am going to self-destruct right now.
The self-destruct thing is so funny because he tries to do it like 4 times.
I was gonna say at least 3 times.
And every time it is just so funny. I just love the idea of this like robot that it's like any second that it thinks it's cornered, it's like, I'm just gonna kill myself.
Which is not funny inherently, but
in
terms of the robot,
it's a robot, so it's funny. And I think it's just like the deadpan way he delivers the line. But they clean up the town. They bust into the place where the bounty target is, and I love this part because the slow reveal is great because they're looking around. They don't know what's going on, where this 50-year-old person is, and the fob leads them to this pod, and as it's opening up, IG-11 just drops this nice little nugget. He says, some species age differently, and it's your first little you get like that brief second to be like, oh, maybe I've judged this whole scenario completely wrong. And we get a reveal, which I don't know about you, Chris, but when I first saw this, when this reveal hit me, it was such a mind-blowing moment.
I'll tell you what, I don't know how I felt about it. I don't remember how I felt about it, but like in retrospect, I feel like how I would have felt then was more like, oh my God, they're really doing this?
Yeah.
We get our first ever image of the child herself, Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda, who, I mean, if there was ever a character who was more quickly celebrated by the internet, I don't know them.
Well, I mean, I feel like that was probably one of the biggest risks. It's not like new Star Wars, Disney Star has taken that many risks. I feel like they took enough.
They've taken a few.
But this one, I would say, is probably the biggest one. And thank God they did it this early in the show, because if this was something that happened at the very end, I don't think it would have been appreciated the same way. But they were able to get it out of the way in the beginning, and oh my God, internet sensation, memes on memes.
Oh my God.
Baby Yoda was everywhere.
Merchandising, like from a merchandising standpoint, this is gold.
Well, I was going to say, it was actually unfortunate because they said they weren't even able to they weren't anticipating the child to be so popular, so it wasn't even released into like, or I guess merchandise with the child wasn't released until after Christmas because they hadn't planned for it. And so, dude, talk about like
there was a lot of like unofficial like Baby Yoda merchandise. But man, I mean, I remember everybody wanted a shirt with him. Everyone wanted a plushie or a figurine or a Funko. Like,
now that I think about it, I still don't have anything the child related in my house, and I really should.
This was like, I mean, people just went
head over heels
crazy for this Baby Yoda, and I totally get it. He's adorable. In every subsequent appearance after this episode, he's amazing.
Yeah, I would say we don't really know what it is yet, but dude, man, this is just every Facebook post, every Instagram, every Twitter, everything. Everybody was just Baby Yoda all the time. And then to the point where I think Jon Favreau came out and said, like, why are people calling it Baby Yoda? It's not Baby Yoda, it's the child.
Right, yeah.
Oh,
but man, this was a major development for the series. I remember just seeing it and being like, the implications alone are fantastic. And so I think with that, let's kind of like cruise through it, because we're gonna hit a point. Episode 2, I don't think has a whole lot going on with it. We get Jawas. We get kind of more Mando bouncing off of the child.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, like, we're this is our very second episode of the show, and now the show's kind of. It's not that it was in a very fast kind of position or pacing the first episode, but the pacing is much different. And the first episode, we had 3 different locations, 3 separate different events. We had the first bounty, we had the whole Navarro scene, and then we get like the scrimmage on this desert planet to get to the child.
Right.
And then in this one, it's pretty much just
it's all on this one planet.
And it seems almost very sectioned off from what could be the grand story.
Well, I think at first when you're watching it, it does feel like that, and it's not until the very end that the significance of this episode kind of comes back.
Right.
But it's directed by Rick Famuyiwa, also written by Favreau. I like this episode for the most part. I think, we had a cool moment at the beginning. Mando fights some Trandoshans. That's Bossk's people, for all you non Star Wars nerds out there. We know, like, there's this infant, this child, and other bounty hunters are out to get it, and they either want to kill it or they want to take it for themselves. So he's a hot commodity.
Yeah.
And the Mando ship just gets scrapped by Jawas.
And so he just kind of spends the episode kind of in a way doing their bidding in order to get the parts for his ship back. That was shipped, by the way.
He side quests a bit.
Yeah, he does. And I mean, like, there's some fun reveals in there in a way. Like, I mean, the very first and foremost thing that we get to see is in the beginning of the episode, or I guess close to the beginning, we see Mando just kind of like looking at a wound he had sustained from a previous battle earlier, and then the child's kind of crawling up to him, and we see his hand wave, and we're gonna get the moment, but then nope, Mando picks him up, puts him back in his bed.
It's a
then we get it again, and then nope, puts him back to bed.
It's a little tease for something that's gonna come up later, but it's nice that they start seeding it here. But we get more Kuil. I'm gonna just touch real fast on something that I think kind of bothers me about this particular series. Excuse me, and that's that Mando and Kuil, who are both pretty worldly people. Mando goes all around, bounty hunts in a bunch of different places, and we know he is at least an adult man. And Kuil, who we will later learn served with the Empire, not
willingly.
Not willingly, and is a very knowledgeable person. He can build droids and tame blurgs, but neither of them know what the Force is, and neither of them know what Jedi are, and that is just weird to me, because I'm like, this isn't... Star Wars has this thing where, like, they want to insist on, like, these mythological aspects of their characters, where it's like, in the original series, the idea of a Jedi is like a hokey religion, and it is like people, don't know about the Jedi way, but it's only been like 19 years since the Purge.
I mean, remember this is that I know Luke wasn't entirely worldly, but he didn't know all that much about it either, being 20 years into it, and I can assume that his friend group that he hung out with before them, that we're only giving glimpses of if you haven't watched the deleted scenes from that movie, was that, like, not even they really knew what the Force was or what Jedi were.
They were... Well, I think, like Luke at the beginning of the original movie, he wants to be an Imperial starfighter. So,
right.
Like,
without realizing the ramifications.
Right, but he is also, like, Tatooine is supposed to be like a backwater little, like, mud hole.
It's still considered Outer Rim.
I just find it weird that it's like, these are very worldly people, and, like, again, like, Han Solo was a spice runner in the original movie, and just kind of a
scoundrel, if you will.
A scoundrel, yeah, and he even at least knew what the Force was. I mean, he doesn't believe in it. He calls it a hokey religion. Yeah, but he knows what it is, and he is very much depicted as not being a very smart person. So it bothers me. And again, like, this is like a very minor thing, but, like, I feel like it doesn't make sense that Mando at least doesn't have a passing knowledge of what the Force is. So,
I mean, with this will kind of continue on into later episodes in the season, like episodes 7 and 8, really, I think. But I also noticed there's, like, the disparity when in terms of the... like, I like the fact that they kind of reference being a Jedi as a religion, right? Or as, like, a, also like a belief system versus science and quantifiable in a way, right?
Yeah.
They kind of do it the reverse way with in terms of, like, the Mandalorian creed. The Mandalorian himself has a brief quip with Kuil while they're on their way to the Jawas to bargain for the parts. Kuil tells Mando to drop his weapons.
Yeah.
And then Mando replies with, weapons are a part of my religion, or something like that.
Right.
Which is, I mean, it's like, our show's obviously based on this culture, or, like, around, like, this guy that's a part of this culture, this creed, this religion, as he calls it. And we get that, but we get nothing on the Jedi knowledge. So I think it all has something to do with, like, they're not, I mean, obviously they've introduced a Yoda type species into the show. So now we get revealed that there are force powers. This thing's force sensitive. There's in this episode 2, we get the child saving the Mando with like a force pickup.
Yeah,
and like push down.
Stops the Mudhorn. The Mudhorn, by the way, really cool effect. Very solid CGI there. Looks awesome. That whole fight's cool. But yeah, I mean, listen, does it kill the show for me? No. But I think it's just weird that it's like, listen, Luke Skywalker, as we know in the sequel series, is a living legend. Everyone knows who Luke Skywalker. Poor children on Canto Bight know who Luke Skywalker is. But you know, I don't know. It bothered me where I'm like, at what point did people stop knowing what the Force was?
Well, like I said, we get that more explored later on.
Sure. Okay.
But I think at this point now, the show does something most incredibly incredible, if you will. Episode 3, The Sin, is probably one of the better episodes of the show, if not like maybe the second or third best episode of the entire show.
It's up there. There's a lot of cool stuff going on in this one.
Like, we finally get the ramifications of the Mando bringing in his bounty. Though he's kind of grown attached to the child. He decides to send him in.
He unfortunately realizes this attachment after he has turned the child in. Long enough for him to be gifted just a boatload of Beskar. By the way, in the ice cream holder, the ice cream maker that the dude was running around with in Empire Strikes Back. That's what that safe for the Beskar steel is. It's an ice cream maker.
I'm trying to remember when in Empire there's the ice cream maker.
It's when they're evacuating Cloud City.
Oh, and yeah.
There's just a dude in the background running around with it.
That's awesome.
So I like that they reused that prop. But yeah,
we get a more great background when Mando brings in the Beskar back to the covert, and now he's approached by other Mandalorians, very, very big-looking Mandalorians.
We get Jon Favreau, as I called him, Chadalorian. He's just this big Chad of a man.
I mean, the heavy gunner, infantry gunner Mandalorian, which you looked up and you said you found it as he was credited as Paz Vizsla.
Yes, so apparently
I couldn't find that.
Let me see, because I know I saw that somewheres.
Because the implication would be that he's some sort of descendant of House Vizsla and Pre-Vizsla.
Right.
But I couldn't find any information to confirm that. However,
so on IMDb, Jon Favreau, it says he is uncredited, but the role is Paz Vizsla.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
So I guess that has
I guess
ties.
You get more out of that if you are familiar with like the Clone Wars cartoon that was on Cartoon Network for a time,
right?
And then
that has ties.
I guess now it's on Disney Plus as well.
Ties to the greater universe, but then Mando, he gets away, and I like that. When he gets back to the Razor Crest, he has this this moment where he goes to use the drive stick, and the pommel from the top of it is missing.
Oh yeah, because the child's plaything.
And he has this moment of like, oh man, I just gave that kid up to who knows what, and this is the kid that saved my life. And he has this crisis of conscience. This is right after he's gotten his badass new full Beskar armor and whistling birds. I would say the whistling birds are pretty cool. I feel like there's a moment though back when all that's being forged, and in the middle of a small fight he gets in with this Paz Vizsla. Mm-hmm. There's all this talk about the Great Purge and how all this Beskar is spoils of the Great Purge by the Imperials, and just some of the other Mandalorians didn't seem very very supportive. Paz being the specific one, Yeah.
Which is this great kind of, not a throwaway line, but like, the Purge as we know it is, all the Jedi being murdered in Order 66.
Right.
So it's like, what does the Purge mean to the Mandalorians? Because they didn't know about all the Jedi happening at the time.
I think it's a separate purge. I think there were just a lot of purges.
Right.
But
so I think it's our second time that phrase itself is given to the show, the first being in the very first episode.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, well, like, what was this purge? Like, why are the Mandalorians like in this covert? Like, because those familiar with the greater universe of things, there's a whole planet dedicated to the Mandalorians, the Mandalorian culture. It's called Mandalore, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, what happened to Mandalorian society as we know it? The Imperials had control over it at one point. Now that they're gone, what is to come, or what happened? Though it's only been 5 years since the end of the Empire, just the implications alone are, I think, some of the best. I don't want to say like fan servicey parts, but it gives a nod to other aspects of the universe. Yeah.
So, but and then actually, we'll another little bit of world building is when Mando's talking to Grief Karga, and he says, these guys are Imperial, and Grief Karga tells him, oh, well, why don't you go report them to the New Republic? And he says, that's a joke. So it's weird that it's like, this New Republic, they don't seem very effective, because clearly there are factions and splinter cells of the Empire still going around, and kind of sending out bounties and conducting shadowy dealings almost with impunity, because later on there'll be a lot of stuff about like they basically set up a mass occupation of Navarro later in the season, and you go like, well, these guys are war criminals. Like what's going on with the New Republic that all this is just allowed to fly.
Yeah, and then we also don't know Navarro's exact location within the galaxy, right? Because when you think about it, like the Republic was all like the core worlds, or like it's the same thing with the Empire, because the Empire took over the original Republic. So the New Republic, I assume, just kind of reasserted its dominance there. Though their new headquarters wasn't on Coruscant, it was on other worlds that were given in some sort of spin-off novels in during the Force Awakens time. Like, is Navarro the planet or the city, whatever it is, like considered? I don't want to say outer world. There's what's the word for it? Outer Rim. That's it. Excuse me. Is it considered outer rim? Like, are they able to operate in an area like that?
There's a lot of questions. Or like,
is that how they get away with it?
There's a lot of questions, and it's not all answered, and that's fine. It doesn't need to be answered, but it does make me go like, well, what, why are the Empire still as much of a threat as they are? And I guess maybe that does make sense. They are a little, it's out, kind of way out in the boonies of the galaxy, and so maybe that's why.
I like how you worded it in the notes that you blame.
I blame Mando for the First Order, because he didn't report him. But he's the reason Han Solo's dead. So just getting into it, Mando, he gets his crisis of conscience, goes back, busts in, kicks ass, takes baby.
Saves the day, and then when it almost seems like he's done for, and the child is going to be returning to the Empire.
Grief Karga rallies all the bounty hunters to stop him from escaping Navarro. We get a cool scene, because there's a lot of cool bounty hunters here. We get humans, we got Rhodians, we get Dathamarans, we got a lot of different species of bounty hunter.
It's also important to add, like, I think this Navarro and this set itself was actually like a real set too. It wasn't one of those back 360 backgrounds or anything like that.
Real practical set.
So they had a lot of room to work in the area, and it all looks really great too when you watch it. Then
we get go ahead.
Yeah, just the reveal of Chattalorian coming to the rescue. with all the other fraternity boys and girls.
I think it was
coming in with their jetpacks.
One of the coolest scenes in this series, in this season, because I think it speaks a lot to like the Mandalorians, that they will risk their own security for just one of their ranks.
Listen, it's like the Olive Garden. You know, when you're here, you're family.
That's what I always say. It's really cool. And then I love that, you know, we get a humanizing line because, well, we get Paz Vizsla, Chattalorian. He kind of gets his redemptive moment after he picked a fight with Mando earlier, where he covers for him to get to the Razor Crest, and then later on he's seen with the jetpack and he, you know, salutes, and it's cool, like a little like Rocket Man moment.
Yeah,
and I love. You know, go ahead.
No. It's just that moment is pretty funny, like in general, because Mando's response is, "I got to get me one of those."
Yeah, I love it.
It's really humanizing.
Exactly. This isn't just some carbon cutout guy. He has wants and desires and aspirations, and he thinks things are cool. So it's a nice touch.
It makes him super relatable. I will say one of the most off-putting moments about that, I felt it, I think also the first time I watched the show, is that I didn't know how well the jetpacks and the positions and the acting was going to play into, or I guess the performance really, it's going to play into the show, like how well it was going to be done, I guess, translating, because before they only did it in cartoon form, right?
Right.
And then now putting that kind of, I guess you would call it a pose or something. I don't know.
Oh, where he kind of launches into the air.
Well, it's like when they launch into the air, and then when they land and how they act in the air. It just looked a little weird for me. I don't know if it looked exactly right. It still looked a little static. And it's like it didn't really move a whole lot, and not as much that I feel like a jetpack would. But then again, when you look back at Boba Fett launching in one direction with the jetpack in Return of the Jedi, it didn't. I don't know. I just felt like Jango Fett kind of looked better than all these guys.
You know, it is what it is. I think, like I said, some of the compositing and some of the stuff in this is not perfect. Hopefully, it's something that they'll grow into as the.
Yeah, I only see room for improvement.
Right. But so that leads us into episode 4, Sanctuary, which is directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, written by Jon Favreau. And we have hit a point in this series where we've had 3 really standout good episodes, a good 3-episode, 3 acts that tell a nice story and give us the good status quo for this. And then we hit this next 3-episode block that is just kind of there, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say, like, you don't realize it, but then it all kind of turns into, like, this serial space western tale of adventures of the Mandalorian and the Child.
It is filler in the purest sense of the word. It is nothing that happened. There is literally maybe 3 things in the next 3 episodes that happen that matter. The first of which happens in this episode. We meet Gina Carano's character, Cara Dune.
Yeah, and then they get, like, I guess they get their rapport. We get little bits and pieces of how they met before, or just like kind of their working relationship, if you will.
Yeah, we learn a lot about her. She's a former rebellion shock trooper, and she's kind of like in hiding because she went AWOL. And
you know what's interesting? How do you go AWOL on the rebellion side? You know what I mean?
You just don't show up one day.
That's like what caused her to go AWOL on the side of the rebellion?
I think she says it in it that after the war ended, she was basically tasked with escorting people and making sure people showed up to where they needed to show up. And she's like, "This isn't what I signed up for," and dipped.
I can see how that could be construed as lame.
But then this whole episode does kind of it's fine, but it's
a good what if tale, you know, like
sure, that's a good way to look at it. But it's basically the the Seven Samurai, Magnificent Seven, High Plains Drifter. It's we roll in. There's a group of thugs threatening the town. Let's teach the town to defend themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
And
I mean,
yeah. Go ahead.
No, it's just it like that's what it is. It's not bad. You get a cool ATST moment.
It's cool.
But I mean, in the end, it doesn't really matter because they can't stay on the planet anyway.
Aside from Cara Dune, nothing in this episode matters.
Yeah.
And
I mean, with that being said, you kind of roll into episode 5.
Episode 5.
I'll tell here, but I don't even want to.
So much.
I don't want to hear you talk about episode 5 right now, Zach. Here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you, episode 5 could have been avoided if Mando was a better pilot and his dogfight.
I will not overstay my welcome. I'm just going to say
They did not need to land on Tatooine and Mos Eisley.
This entire episode made me fear for anything ever created by Dave Filoni, because this is everything I hate about modern Star Wars. It is poorly written. It is sloppily directed. It is fan service for no other sake but just to have fan service, and not even like clever fan service. The script is terrible. The acting is subpar.
I don't think the acting was that bad.
I think it's pretty bad. I made a list. They go to Tatooine. They go to Mos Eisley. There's pit droids from Phantom Menace. There's Amy Sedaris's mechanic character calls Mando a womp rat. Literally the one episode after he called the child a womp rat. They play Sabacc. They go to the cantina from New Hope. They go into the same booth that Luke Skywalker and Han Solo meet in the cantina. Toro Calican, who's like your Han Solo-esque character, he puts his boots up on the table just like Han when he meets Greedo. And then Calican even, he mentions Corellia that Han Solo's from. And then they get speeder bikes that are the same speeder bikes they use on Endor. And there's Tusken Raiders and Banthas and a dewback. And then at the end, Amy Sedaris's character mentions Beggar's Canyon where they did the pod races. And it's just like every fiber of my being just says, just stop. There's no substance here. You're just saying words. It's no better than an episode of like, what's the show? Big Bang Theory, where it's like you're not even being clever. You're just saying words.
Listen, that was a lot to unload on these lovely listeners.
There's a lot about modern Star Wars. I could do an entire podcast about what I don't like about modern Star Wars. Suffice it to say, this episode sucks. There is literally nothing about it that is necessary. And I hope they learn a big lesson from this going forward. Moving on to episode 6.
Well, all right. Listen, before we get into episode 6, I did want to mention, there's the very end tidbit that we're alluded to Boba Fett. And I'm like, number one, why?
Yeah.
I don't mind Boba Fett. I really don't. Hold on, my microphone's speaking. I'm getting way too loud. No, it's fine. All right. No, so number one, why Boba Fett? Like, yeah, he's a fan favorite, but we already have a Mandalorian that we're focusing on. I guess in this universe, the Mandalorians have changed, right? In the Disney universe, Boba Fett's no longer like a Mandalorian. He just has the armor.
Yeah, so Jango Fett was like, he found the armor, thought it was cool, wore it, and Mandalorian culture was like, no.
That's not what it was in the expanded universe, and I went over and I told you this.
They are essentially
I was so confused.
Appropriating the Mandalorian culture.
Oh, God. That's terrible. But listen, if they weren't going to give us the show of The Mandalorian, then I would have just preferred the James Mangold announced for all of 5 minutes Boba Fett movie until then Kathleen Kennedy and the rest of Lucasfilm were like, oh, okay, actually all current Star Wars projects are canceled and we're reworking all of them.
Listen,
and then
I'm just gonna say it. Boba Fett's not cool. Boba Fett appears for 10 minutes of Empire Strikes Back, takes one shot at Luke. He gets that one cool moment, I should say, where Darth Vader tells him no more disintegrations, and then he dies on accident in Return of the Jedi.
He doesn't die. He's back, and he's better than ever.
Shut up. He's dead. And
no,
no
Boba Fett's pretty cool.
He actually has been.
Cool.
I think they've confirmed him for season 2 of Mandalorian, and I'm just
they did. And they got the actor that played him. The Tamora. What's his name? What's his last name? Tamora something.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Okay, all right. Tamora Morrison. That's
okay. That's cool.
We'll get into episode 6 because episode 6 actually is one of my favorites. Again, everything here totally inconsequential to everything else in the show. This show is 65. I would say 65% of it. No, not even. It's episodes 4, 5, and 6.
There's a lot that doesn't matter,
and then half of episode 2 doesn't even matter. So that's like at least 45% of the show that doesn't matter.
Would I be right in saying that you like this episode more for who's in it than what it's about?
Oh, for sure. As far as in terms of all the side questy episodes,
break it down.
Like this is probably the best side questy episode.
Probably, yeah. This has moments where I was like, I'm actually enjoying myself watching it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess episode 2 is like half side quest, half not. And then episode 4 is like just okay.
Here's the thing I'll say about episode 2. At least it matters for a later episode.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, like, here's the thing: the implication at the very end of The Prisoner, we don't know if it matters yet, but hopefully it does. Anyways, I just want to get because this episode has like the greatest cast of like minor characters that I've seen in a while.
This episode is stacked.
All right. So boom. First off, we get Mark Boone Jr., baby. We get Bill Burr, baby. We get Natalia Tena, baby. We got Mr. Krabs, baby. I'm talking Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob. I forget I wrote him in the notes as Mr. Krabs and not the actor's name.
He's why am I forgetting his name?
We'll have to look it up. I mean, but he's you know him when you hear him.
Clancy Brown.
There you go. He was also had a small role in the first season of The Punisher. That I like.
He was also in.
He's in a lot of things. I mean, he's in like everything. But you also get Matt Lanter, who gets like a physical role. He's like the security guard. He's actually Anakin Skywalker in Clone Wars. And then, I think that's it. Oh, I guess in the very end of the episode, you get Deborah Chow, Dave Filoni, and Rick. I forget his last name. Famuyiwa, like all just kind of there as X-wing pilots. I'm like, dude. So yeah,
this episode's stacked, and that's the best thing it's got going for it. By the way, did they ever say who played Keen? Ismael Cruz Cordova. So that's who plays Keen or Quinn or whatever his name is. Shian's brother. But
okay.
So this episode's cool. I think the writing's a bit inconsistent, even like line to line, where you have like characters where they're like, I don't care about this, but suddenly I care about it, but now I don't care, but I really did care. Or characters who are like, hey, that's pretty shitty of you for backstabbing that person, but now I trust you, even though it's only been minutes since I saw you betray someone.
Listen, this show just gives us like another look at like Mando's past crews or people he's worked with, and then just like. Some cool moments, but that's all it is. Like,
yeah, I guess that's cool. Like, again, I'm always one of those people that says like a cool moment shouldn't detract from like logic. Like,
but I mean it does. In this show it does.
The thing that I put in the notes that the thing that bothers me about this episode is that this is a dude. Okay, so like they always talk about like with Mando, like, oh, it's just like the good old days. So like, you know, it's probably been a while since he rode with these guys, and they're going to bust out Quinn or Kin or whatever the brother's name is, the Twi'lek, and he implies that when he sees Mando, he's like, oh, the man who left me behind is the one who's freeing me now. So you're like, okay, so he got arrested because Mando wasn't there to save him or something, but he's still in his like civilian attire, and he's in a prison transport ship, and so I'm like, what was this last week? Was this
I don't know about all
was this 2 years ago? It's the good old days. Like
we listen, I don't know all the intricacies about this episode. All I know is just like it's cast of characters is fine. I'll tell you what one of my favorite parts about this episode, and this will probably be the last thing I have to say about it. It's this droid Zero,
Yeah,
who has
Zero's
like
fun.
this really, I mean, one, he's like an insane pilot, you know, like they like what he like twists the Razor Crest and all this
Yeah, and
crap.
he doesn't warn them before he does it, so they all go flying. And
Yeah.
Bill Burr drops the baby.
Oh my god, I don't even want to talk about that. But Zero is very. He reminds me a lot of the HK droids from the Old Republic series.
Okay.
The HK units were like these assassin droids that had like, I forget who the voice actor was, but it's just he would talk about organics deserve to be pummeled into the ground and smited at all costs because they are nothing compared to the advanced technology that is me, the HK assassin droid. And my model is more superior than others. And it's just, I just love how Zero refers to people as organics and that he has better response time and things like that. It just has this great like snarky inflection, and he has this droid-like confidence that, oh my god, it just kind of comes with the territory. That's the last thing I have to say about this episode.
Yeah, it's look, as compared to the last episode, which I just couldn't stand at all. This episode was not the worst. Like I said, I have a few issues with it. I think Bill Burr, as much of a fun actor as he is, he has a lot of line delivery. He calls Mando a wise ass at one point, and I'm like, people don't talk like that in Star Wars. Like, it's, there's a reason why Leia calls Han a scruffy looking nerf herder, because I'm like, yeah, it's like a space insult,
I would almost like to say that Bill Burr's lines were probably written for him.
Sure,
and
but calling him a wise ass, it took me out of the moment. And also, I will say, on a positive note, I love that when they do turn on Mando, it kind of becomes like that's like the best part of the episode, because then he gets to basically hunt all of them.
Yeah.
And the scene when he takes Bill Burr down, it feels like you're watching a horror movie.
Oh yeah, it's like the lights are flashing
and he's
everything.
like slowly getting like closer to him in the background. It's cool.
Super
it's really
cool. Yeah.
So, all in all, not the worst episode, not the best episode, but as far as all the filler episodes, this is probably the best one. That being said, we move into the final two, and having seen those having seen the middle three going into the final two, the only things that mattered here were that Cara Dune gets introduced, that Mando's been away from Navarro for a minute, and that he has had to fend off some bounty hunters.
For the older crowd that is listening to Script to Screen, when Zach refers to being away from Navarro for a minute, he means longer period of time.
Yes, he's been away at least long enough for the situation to worsen in Navarro. But it's like, why did we have 3 episodes of like subpar television and not just like one good episode about like Mando being on the run?
So I don't know why, and I'll tell you what, I don't even think I noticed it until my second viewing. Like I really noticed it this time around, because I had also mentioned to you a couple of weeks ago that I'd actually just I'd actually just watched The Witcher for the very first time.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of does this same exact thing in a way. Like, I guess The Witcher has its own differences, but like the show doesn't really make sense until the final 2 episodes or something like that.
Right.
And yeah, and then coming off of that and then going into The Mandalorian, or I guess back into it for my second viewing, I'm like, okay, like now everything's kind of put together. Yeah, the middle episodes were all pretty much useless. Like, but I mean, we are gifted with these really great moments these last 2 episodes, and I'm glad it ended on this note versus like some other BS they could have concocted.
No, for as a way to send off the series, these last 2 episodes are fantastic.
Yeah. So I mean, we pretty much get. I guess it begins with Grief Karga coming back, or sending a transmission to the Razor Crest,
telling him, "Help! I'm sorry, we screwed up. I'm really sorry. Please come back."
Right. I mean, I think we forgot to mention that Grief did get shot at by Mando before he left Navarro.
But being the sneaky scumbag that he is, he had some Beskar steel.
That wasn't because he put that there on purpose. That was luck.
Yeah, no. I think it's great. He's saved by his greed. But yeah, so he's like, hey, please come back. The Empire really sucks, and they're making life miserable for everyone, so please help us.
We have a plan to use the child as bait.
Right. And so
I was going to say, Mando being the smart bounty hunter and also intelligent guy that he is, he's like, I'm not going there by myself. I'm going to go get my cast of characters, my band of brothers.
He's putting the band back together for the first time.
Yeah.
So he goes, I love the exchange with Cara Dune, because he's like, hey, I need your help. And she's like, I really shouldn't. And he's like, it's against the Empire. And she's like, sign me up. Let's go.
Yeah. And then we go to Queel, and then he's like, oh, I don't do the bounty hunter thing. I don't do the Empire thing anymore. I'm free of that life. And then we also get the awesome reveal of the IG unit coming in, and everybody like draws their weapons and points at him. He's like, oh, can I get anybody tea?
Yeah, it's a great reveal. Good to have Taika Waititi back, and the scene of him learning of the IG unit, learning how to like function again, is really great to watch. Like you kind of mentioned, Kuil's backstory comes into play as he and Cara Dune come to blows a little bit over their she's former rebellion, he's former Empire. She was rebellion by choice, but he was forced into the Empire, and hearing them kind of go back and forth, it's like real drama, which I feel like this show has had in very short supply. Yeah, but I mean, it also, dude, it's very, I don't want to say it's well earned. It's just more like we really needed that to keep us more attached to the show. And then it kind of just builds off of that kind of drama piece by adding another one and another one. Like we get this kind of weird moment with Grief Karga when we land, that, they now have his 3 guys and we have their 3 guys. They have like this little back and forth, and then Grief Karga like shoots the other 2 as everybody's approaching, and he's like, oh, the plan was to betray you. Actually, he kills the guys only after the child saves his life. When he's poisoned. Oh. Well, yeah, because at first it's like, Grief's got his people, Mando's got his people, and they go start walking back to Navarro. And then during the night they camp, they get attacked by like, I don't know, dinosaurs or something, and then in the Grief Karga gets poisoned. The child comes up and says, nah, dude, I got you. And we get that payoff where he heals him with the Force. The first ever live action Force healing, because I think this episode predated. Actually, if you want me to be super specific, the Reckoning, which is this episode, it was released December 18th, 2019. Hey, that's my birthday. There you go. Happy birthday for the billionth time. I think that's the same day that The Rise of Skywalker came out. Yeah. Which also was for the first time we had seen Force healing. Force healing in terms of like we had heard about in episode 3 and such, and then now like we finally see it, which I always loved the idea. That I think that's one thing that these later Star Wars projects got right, like by including that this far in. So that was probably one of my favorite parts of the show. But yeah, like Grief Karga like then kills his own guys and has like this weird dialogue moment where he's just like, oh yeah, I couldn't go through with betraying you guys anymore. And I'm like, oh no shit, that was the plan all along. Oh no. He has his crisis of conscience where he's like, well, I was gonna turn you over, but then your kid had to go and save my life, and I'm not a total asshole. So, oh my god. But that's cool because I like a world where Carl Weathers is a good guy, because he's a fun good guy to have around. Wasn't he a good guy in the later Rocky movies? Yeah, pretty much right after the first one. By the end of the second one, he's like friendly. Yeah. But yeah, he's cool, and he's fun to kind of play off of Mando, because he's a much more self-serving character. And we get this cool moment where we're like, okay, well, there's a lot more of a Imperial presence, so how about this? Queel, you take the kid, you go back to the ship, we're going to kind of fake it into town, and we get a reunion with the client, Werner Herzog. Not very, it's a very short-lived reunion.
But
So,
I mean,
yeah, he gets wiped out.
by his own people too. But in this moment, we also get some other great. I mean, so I guess they have that whole interaction, and they all realize it's a fake, or something like that. Or no, I guess Giancarlo Esposito's character is finally introduced.
Yep.
As what is he, Moff Gideon?
Moff Gideon, who. No, we find this stuff out next episode, because he basically shows up at the end and he's like, you have something that belongs to me. And then all this time we know that Quill's racing back to the Razor Crest, and now there's some scout troopers that are racing after him. And everyone's kind of pinned down in the bar, and it's a great, kind of...
They have it all surrounded. Death Troopers come in, like, oh, I love Death Troopers.
Yeah, they have a very cool design, and it's just, things are looking grim, and then to cap off this fantastic episode, Kuil is revealed to have been killed, and the child is now in Imperial custody. And what a I remember seeing that and just being so bummed. I was like, oh my god, he's such a good character.
Yeah.
It was,
I mean, I really dude, I feel like it's the beginning of the next episode that makes me even like more upset at the fact that now and then we find out who has him.
Yeah, so I
like
guess
who specifically?
Yeah, so episode 8, Redemption, directed by Taika Waititi, which
his
is really
first
cool.
episode. It was so awesome.
Yeah, Jon Favreau's writing. So we get the 2 scout troopers, one of which played by Jason Sudeikis.
Oh my god! And then he goes ahead and he punches the baby. He punches
the child. It's a.
I've always said that Jason Sudeikis had an incredibly punchable face. And like now the target is like right on his nose. Someone tell Olivia Wilde that she needs to give him a good like deck. Right in the chin.
I like Jason Sudeikis until it's revealed that he's actually a bad person. I got nothing against him.
I'll tell you what, I really liked him on SNL.
He's a wonderful comedian, and so yeah, he's funny. I like that they kind of play off the idea of stormtroopers having bad aim. They both try and like shoot the can that's on the ground.
I was gonna say, this is just another one of those moments that we get later, like these comedic Jon Favreau moments put into the show.
It's pretty great. It kind of reminds me of like, I don't know if you remember the like way super old video. What is it? The Star Wars parody of Cops, where it's called what's it called? Droids or something? Or
I don't remember this.
And
what year is this from?
Oh, fucking 90s or something, or
oh my god,
early 2000s. It's like, a parody of Cops, but it's stormtroopers on Tatooine. But that's what it felt like. It felt like just 2 dudes who are just kind of like, this feels like this could only be post Empire, because they're so laid back about everything. I love that when they're talking, they're like, hey, they're checking back in with them, like, hey, can we bring the kid in now? And it's like, oh, not yet. The Gideon, the Moff just killed somebody for interrupting him. So it's a great scene, but then it's capped off even better because IG-11 just comes up and turns into the most badass babysitter.
Yeah. His new nursing protocol, as programmed by Queel, is just really like taking control. And so, like, oh man, what an incredible sequence! By the way, I don't know if we've talked about this earlier, but like the animation sequence is done with IG, because I think there was like a body like version, and then there was like the animated version. But like that was some like incredible CG and stuff that they did right there. Like thought that was like well spent, and all the details were kind of perfect. I just like the way that, all of the arms are articulated and everything, just kind of shooting around, and then on a speeder, no less, as he grabs the child and then just zooms toward Navarro's town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's terrific.
I just like the sheer panic in Mando's voice when he's asking for Queel, and then it's IG that picks up the comm, and he's just like, I have the child, and he's like, oh, what are you gonna do? It's just like my programming to protect the child, and he just goes crazy. He just starts shooting everything.
I love it. He kind of like sets the speeder to cruise. He just pulls out some blasters. He's zooming through town, just knocking people down.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we're getting some really cool kind of like information on Moff Gideon from well, we're getting a lot of information on everybody because like Gideon's just kind of waiting them out, but we learn from the team inside, Team Mando, that this guy Gideon, he should be dead. He was apparently executed for war crimes.
But not really.
Yeah, clearly. He used to be part of the ISB, which is like the security bureau for the Empire. So he knows his stuff. He knows the Mando's true name, Din Djarin.
Which was leaked to us like 2 months before the show aired.
I remember because I came up to you guys. You guys were like, I wonder what his name's going to be. And I wonder if I'll find out his name. I'm like, his name's Din Djarin. Here's an article where Pedro Pascal says it. And you guys were all like, why did you do this?
I mean, why did you do that, Zach?
Because I didn't know it was a secret because Pedro Pascal was talking about it so freely.
Oh my god, it was the worst. But I want to say in that same moment, we're finally given the full reveal of like Din Djarin's backstory, which, by the way, we have not talked about this a single time on this show.
Oh? On
this specific episode.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
The return of a composer we talked about earlier in the Tenet episode.
Yep.
Ludwig Göransson, who's done the music for the entire show and the theme and everything. He's in his element in this show. And in this moment that we get where we resume kind of where we left off in the past, I guess in Din Djarin, the Mandalorian's
in his history.
His backstory, his history, we get this awesome like electric guitar
it's so
reverb.
Good. It's so
very
it's
like
just shredding.
Yeah, it's like I can't. I want to do it with my mouth, but I don't know how
you know what's
translate.
cool. You know what's cool is that like I would never, if before that episode, would never have thought that, you know, like 80s style, just like electric guitar shredding would have ever fit with Star Wars.
Yeah, it almost felt like kind of like Eagles-esque too when you think about it.
when it hits though, it feels, because that's the attitude that they really wanted to convey with the Mandalorians, is that they're just these badass these badass people, and it's, you know, it's this electric guitar version of the Mandalorian theme.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic.
For context, we didn't mention the original version. The original version was made with some sort of recorder and like other like built upon with like other music and stuff like that. It actually sounds really awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
I assume everybody listening has heard it already.
Göransson knocked it out of the park with this, but like that is probably like out of all of them is the moment where I was kind of like, holy shit. like
this is just like this is exactly what I wanted from this show. It was so perfect. But going back to the events that happened, like I think in an earlier episode we got the part of the reveal that we find out why Din Djarin hates droids or why he's so uneasy around them. It's because like as a child he was attacked by separatists, like super battle droids
back in the Clone Wars. Yeah,
back during the Clone Wars. And it's so great to see that. I hate like prequel deniers in a way, or like the way that Star Wars kind of doesn't show certain bits from the prequels. They only show like the Darth Maul fight and other things. Right. But any opportunity they have to like show like droid attacks and things like that, because they're the only reason they're not loved and they're not as badass as people want is because new Star Wars hasn't given them the opportunity to be badass and things like that. Like you can make new shit. You can do new things.
I think this was good representation, and like you get to see them kind of like intimidating because you're not seeing them from a militaristic standpoint. You're seeing them from a civilian point of view.
Yeah, it's super scary.
Yeah, people are just being like killed left and right, and so his parents lock him in this cellar because what else can you do to keep your child safe? And we don't know what happens to them, but the door opens up. The super battle droid's there. It points its blaster down, and then last minute he's saved by a rock and roll god descend from heaven.
And what Zach means by that is like this band of Mandalorian mercenaries going in there and shooting up the town. They're like, get these fucking droids out of my face. It is like full like Mandalorian, like, kick-ass
Glory.
moments. Oh, it is the coolest, if not the coolest moment in the entire show.
And yeah, it's in that moment where you go like,
top
okay,
five.
I can totally understand why this dude just drank the Kool-Aid on this, because like, who wouldn't want to be one?
Yeah.
When you see that stuff, but without going too deep into it, it's a fantastic scene. It tells us everything we need to know about Din Djarin, Mando. I'm gonna keep calling him Mando because Din Djarin's just a little, maybe I'll get used to it in season 2.
Yeah.
But we get a kind of another quick fight scene where IG-11 shows up, starts fighting everybody, gives them time to kind of clear everyone out.
I was going to say, he's kind of the catalyst in them kind of breaking out of their hiding spot and just kind of going out there and kicking as much ass as they can.
Right, and but it leads to Mando being severely injured. They have to retreat back into the bar where they're able to cut their way into the sewers. Baby Yoda, the child, kills a dude, so he's got a body count.
Yeah, I like that. That's what you wrote in the notes.
He's got an official body count of 1.
But I mean, we also get like finally the thing that I'm sure Pedro Pascal was thrilled about. Like
I love this scene. I love the scene
final
so
face
much.
reveal.
Yeah.
of the Mandalorian as a part of his creed. And it's an interesting part that we haven't talked much about on this episode as well. Is like,
he doesn't take his helmet off.
Yeah, he doesn't take his helmet off, which is opposed to a lot of the other Mandalorians that we've seen in the other Star Wars franchise properties, shows, whatever you want to call them, who all are very happy with taking their helmet off. They're fine with it. They don't care. Or I don't know if it's a serious, but he takes it off. There's a great quip where IG is like, okay, I'm now going to spray this cream on your central processing unit.
It's a Bacta spray.
Yeah, I know, but it's part of his lotions and potions and all that good stuff. And it's just like, that's my brain. You mean my brain?
Yeah,
again,
like,
another great Favreau kind of piece. That's what I'm talking about, Zach. He has like his humor level at least a good 35% or something.
I love
like
it, but and I'll tell you why I love this scene for a few reasons. One, I think Pedro Pascal's performance in this particular episode and in this scene is wonderful. Mm-hmm. I think there is a palpable vulnerability that you can see on his face when his helmet is taken off, because he's doing something that he's not used to doing, taking off his helmet in front of somebody, even if they aren't alive.
Yeah.
It's still a person, and it goes to show like he is now seeing this droid as a person, and the fact that it is a droid shows a level of trust. He's kind of had to, he's almost forced to have, but that it's a really powerful scene. I love that when the helmet comes off, you get the whistle of like air pressure that is actually from when Darth Vader's helmet
I was gonna say, yeah, it's very reminiscent of
that in Return of the Jedi and Revenge of the Sith, which that Dave Filoni, if you're listening, that's how you do fan service.
Listen, you can't just shit on Dave Filoni.
Take the cowboy hat off. You're from Pennsylvania.
I'll tell you what, Zach. He is pretty much like the godson prodigy of George Lucas.
I just wish he would try harder. I know, this is terrible. But, okay, so Mando, he gets back in action. We get that great scene. He bonds with IG-11, and they head down into the sewers, and they find out that most of the Mandalorians from the covert are dead.
Or they didn't, or they escaped.
Yeah, but the armorer is still there, and she gives them, she basically info dumps on them of like, hey, this kid's probably force sensitive, and we have this
you must seek out his people, which were the Jedi.
Yeah, and hey, you got your work cut out for you, so best get to it.
I like how Din Djarin, or the Mandalorian, if you will, refers to them as enemy sorcerers.
Right.
Like, I'm supposed to hand over this child to enemy sorcerers? Like, yeah. She's like, not necessarily, but you just got to figure it out.
Right. And so she gives him his jetpack. I love that. He gets his jetpack and then basically bids everyone adieu And she gets her badass moment fighting off a bunch of stormtroopers with her hammers.
With blasters, yeah. She gets, like, really cool melee fighting and everything like that.
And there's something real visceral about, like, seeing, like, the armor of the stormtroopers, like, shatter against her hammers.
Yeah. I mean, I like it when she, like, smacks the helmet. I'm trying to see, like, in the frame, if you could see, like, when all the bodies are on the ground, if you could see the cracks. I couldn't really make any out, but you get the sound effect, right?
That dude is implied. Dead.
Yeah. Oh my god. It was pretty. Listen, she was definitely kind of, you know.
Also,
she was taking out her inner Lester Nygaard with that hammer.
And then actually we get our scene that validates episode 2 because he gets Mando and the child get the signet of the Mudhorn. They are a clan of 2. I think, cute. Yeah, it's a good moment. It's like, okay, they have a sigil now.
Now give him his own Beskar armor.
Right, that'll be one day maybe. But they make their escape. They're on this lava, like, flume, heading for the exit. That's probably going to be a ride one day. At Star Wars Land, at Galaxy's Edge.
Disney, yeah.
The lava escape with that really cool looking R2 unit.
I was gonna say the only R2 unit I've ever, like, been impressed by ever. The only R2 unit with, like, arms and legs and is, like, 8 feet tall.
Yeah, it's kind of it's weird looking, but he's awesome. The gondola driver, and IG-11 also gets another wonderful line where he's like, "Watch your feet, it's molten lava." Then find out there's there's stormtroopers blocking the exit, and IG-11, he gets this moment where he's like, I can't let the child come to harm, and so I can self-detonate and wipe them all out. And I love it.
The Mandalorian says no. He's like, he's opposed to it at first.
He gets pretty emotional here.
He's like, wait, you don't have to do that.
Yeah, and it's pretty
it's
sad.
A nice kind of full circle for him to come from, like, not caring about droids to being like, wait, no, you shouldn't do that.
Friend, you know? No.
I mean, honestly, like, that's what I'm telling you, man. These last 2 episodes, like,
they bring the drama.
They really do. And, you know, I guess we'll finish off the episode before I go into my afterthoughts about about the implication of all these things.
So, they get out. Moff Gideon shows up in his cool collapsible TIE fighter. Can all TIE fighters do that, by the way?
I feel like you see some of them do that. I want to say that
I'm used to the idea of, like, a ladder pops out of the bottom or something and you climb up into them. But,
I think it's a newer Star Wars idea that, like, some of the TIE fighters actually can, like, break apart and do other things. It's just we only saw certain images of the ones before. So I just think they were just building onto the idea of that.
And so, but then Moff Gideon shows up. He's blasting them. There's not really much they can do, but Mando's like, I got this. He uses his new jetpack and does a cool, like, he shoots up in the air and grabs onto the TIE fighter. And for the second time in Giancarlo Esposito's acting career, he realizes there's an explosion in very close proximity to him. A moment too late, gets to scream real loud and then explode.
Poor guy. Hopefully he'll have all of his face at the end of this one.
Really. And so then Mando shows up and he's like, hey, I did it, guys. And they're like, good job. We're going to hold down the fort here in Navarro. And Mando says, I'm going to take the kid and just dip.
And then that's the Mandalorian.
And I like it. We get a nice...
wait.
Oh, yeah. There's the thing.
There's the thing. We're then on a crashed TIE fighter, and then appears from the cockpit is Finn. And he looks out to the desert, and there's nothing. No, that's not this one.
No, we get something cuts through the hull. It's laser in nature, and it cuts a nice square, and then the door kicks, or the metal kicks open, and Moff Gideon steps out,
wielding a legendary Mandalorian artifact known as the Dark Saber.
It's so cool and also troubling.
I don't know about you. I actually love the Darksaber,
No,
but I realize...
I think the Darksaber's cool. I wrote, here's my notes verbatim. I like the Darksaber, both aesthetically and thematically. And it's a nice holy shit moment.
You forgot the sentence where you said, I hate everything. This sucks. Why are we doing this?
No, I think it's good, but I just, as someone who's not involved in the animated series and like all of the expanded universe, I'm like, do we have to tie it to like everything? I realize the Darksaber is important to the Mandalorian culture and that in history, and so like it makes sense that it will crop up here. I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt, but knowing that season 2
Zach, listen, before you even get into all of that, today's Mandalorian Monday, Mando Monday, as said by Lucasfilm, and they just released, as of today, a Darksaber toy. Now, granted, it's not like Hasbro Forza FX Black Series level of quality.
Give them time.
It's the first Darksaber like toy. I mean,
that's cool.
I'm kind of into it.
That's cool. I mean, if you like Star Wars toys, more power to you. Listen, I think it could work. I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt and say that going forward, this won't blow up in their faces or lead to a bunch of annoying stuff where I have to watch a whole nother series to understand this series.
Yeah, but, this is where they pigeonhole them, as you like to say.
Right, but I mean, like, I trust them, but at the same time, they've also cast Rosario Dawson going ahead into season 2 as Ahsoka Tano. Which, again,
Wait.
cool.
Before we even get into that, because there's some information about that I have pulled up on the side, because it doesn't appear confirmed that is her character. It's just...
I thought they did confirm it.
It was just reported as she was.
Okay,
it's not confirmed that Rosario Dawson is Ahsoka Tano yet.
Hope still remains, but I would say, I think...
Like, why not?
The age, as I understand it, because again, I haven't watched Clone Wars or Rebels, but the age, everyone says, kind of matches up that Rosario Dawson is around the age that Ahsoka Tano would be. Mm-hmm. And also she is a strong female leading type, so it would make sense. Again, I'm okay with it if they can make it work. If I don't need a whole lot of backstory, and as long as this show remains The Mandalorian and not The Mandalorian but mostly Ahsoka Tano, I'm okay with it. I just, I hope they keep this its own cool original story and don't become slaves to the lore and the fan service.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, I will go ahead with some of my own afterthoughts then.
Yes, please.
So, I want to give a big like shout out to Doug Chiang and the other storyboard artists for this show and other Star Wars properties, because at the end of this show, at the end of every episode, we are greeted with some really, really excellent like storyboard pieces and like all like the concept art for the episodes, and it's really great way to just kind of give people like some insight into like how they make these shows and what goes on in that regard. And by the way, I don't know how you feel about this, but I've always felt that Star Wars has always had the best concept art of any other film,
especially
or like the TV world play.
Especially
anything.
if you go back to the Ralph McQuarrie.
Ralph McQuarrie, yeah. So I will say Doug Chiang's been involved in Lucasfilm since the prequels, if not any sooner. I feel like the first place we ever saw him was probably The Phantom Menace, and now his role in the company is incredibly prominent. And he still does all these pieces and everything like that. Like, he's also a great person to follow on Instagram for aspiring artists and the like. But yeah, man, it's just every episode, we're just these great images. I just love the one at the end of the very first episode. We get our first image of the Mando and the child kind of pointing fingers at each other, and like how early that was planned, and it just looks so great.
Yeah, it's
compositionally and just like artistically, it just looked awesome.
It's a really cool kind of thing that this show has that you don't get with a lot of other shows, and it shows a lot of the hard work that did go into bringing a lot of these visions to life.
Yeah. So kind of moving on next is I want to address some of the issues that we kind of discussed about the writing of the show and looking at the future of The Mandalorian as according to Jon Favreau and some of the other creative members. So what I'm reading right now comes from a production article of The Mandalorian Season 2. And hopefully this gives us a better idea of what to expect moving forward. Mm-hmm. It goes with the season begins very directly after the end of the first season, with the Mandalorian protecting the child and searching for its home. Favreau said that the second season would introduce a larger story, with episodes being less isolated than many of the first season's episodes were. Ooh. Though each episode of the second season will still have its own flavor. He added that the new characters introduced in the second season would come with new storylines, allowing for the series to begin to explore other stories other than the Mandalorians. Favreau said he was inspired by Game of Thrones and their approach. Now, I kind of have some issues with that.
Yeah, I heard some of the stuff you said made me say, I like the sound of that. Some of that made me just do a big ol' ooh.
Like, all right, so there was always the talk of, like you said, Rosario Dawson and playing Ahsoka Tano. Like, what would that look like? And then we also have rumors, it was almost confirmed that Tamora Morrison was going to reprise his role as Boba Fett. And then you also have...
I'm going to actually reprise his role. He's never played Boba Fett.
All right, he's only voiced him, excuse me. And you only voiced him in, redubs of the character or... other things like that.
Right.
And then you also have Katie Sackhoff, I believe I said her name right, coming back as Bo-Katan.
That's right. I forgot about that. Oh my god.
And then you also have a new character like Timothy
This is where
Olyphant.
I get nervous.
Like you have all these other elements that they announced that are playing roles in season 2.
I don't want to point fingers, but I know that Filoni has said he's a big fan of connecting a lot of things and saying, okay, this actually ties into that. Right. And you go like, well, that doesn't seem organic, but...
So, you always tell me, and I'm quoting you here, so correct me if I'm wrong, that the Star Wars universe, as big as they want us to make it seem like it is, it does a really great job in making it feel like that everything is down the street from each other.
I think the part that killed me, and I think this is going to go way off the rails, but it's at the end of what's the last one that came out? The Rise of Skywalker. When what's her name? Jana, the woman who
she was the other. Yeah, she was the other.
Where she's talking to Lando at the end. Person. She's talking to Lando at the end, and she's like, yeah, I was stolen from my home as a child in this sector of the galaxy. And Lando's like, well, what do you know? I had a daughter who went missing from that sector around the same time. And I just went, no, please, God, no. And then in the, encyclopedia that they released after the fact, they're like, yes, she was actually his daughter. And I'm like, it's... It bothers me so much. So I would love to see stuff in The Mandalorian that's not like that.
Mm-hmm.
People can just exist. Star Wars. It shouldn't take me telling Star Wars that not every black person has to be related.
That is true. And then, I don't want to continue shitting on Star Wars, for lack of a better phrase, but there's one other piece of not hot garbage, but just inconsistency that I feel like if they're going to address it, they should address it in this season, especially if they're including someone like Bo-Katan, a very prominent Mandalorian in the Rebels and Clone Wars series. Okay. Excuse me. It's that she belongs to the Mandalorians, like born and raised there, that removed their helmets and lived a different kind of culture, not very culty, like this is the way. There's that disparity between the already existing Mandalorians and this new kind of Mandalorian tribe and culture that they've introduced.
How about this? Because I know that Pedro Pascal, this is just a rumor, but Pedro Pascal was apparently getting into some, problems with the production to the point that it was I think it was reported that he almost left the production of the series entirely because he wanted more episodes where he had his helmet off. Right. And wouldn't it be really funny if we get to Bo-Katan and he's like, oh man, you took your helmet off. That's crazy. And she's like, yeah, keeping that helmet, that's not a thing.
Right. And And listen, like, I don't know what the reason is. I think they should address it. As to why that is, who knows? So, I mean, that's my last gripe. I feel like, for the most part, that I feel like is worth mentioning at this point. That being said, the Darksaber is kind of covered in the comment I made before because they have to. Star Wars is now down the street from each other. Okay, other things that I'm really excited for outside of just the shows coming later this week, and this episode is being released after the release of the first episode. One of the directors that we didn't mention much in terms of just her work, but Deborah Chow I feel like in the episodes that she did a great job showing us how good of a director she is.
And she's going to be helming the
Kenobi series.
The Kenobi series.
Yeah,
and
she's not at all in directing any episodes in season 2 because I think she's busy with Kenobi pre-production.
Yeah, she did. She's going to be doing what do you call it? The Kenobi series, and then, if I'm not mistaken, is she doing? I feel like she's also got some involvement in another series, or is it Mr. Robot? I don't know. She had
Mr. Robot ended.
Well, whatever, but she had some involvement in some other series that I think.
Listen, she's great. The Kenobi series. She's also directed a couple episodes of Better Call Saul. Now that I think about it.
There you go. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
But listen, I'm very skeptical about the Kenobi series. That's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, but maybe we'll cover that one day. I
like that she's bringing her experience with another Star Wars property onto this, and I think she has a lot of. She did the Sin and the Reckoning. So nice. 2 of the best episodes in,
there you go. Yeah,
in the show. So I mean, like, I trust her in her directorial capabilities, and if she's going to be show running it as well, like, I think she'll bring hopefully she'll lead that series in a good direction and keeping me optimistic. Still, I'm still very skeptical, but I'm now a little more at ease knowing that she's already done a good job with some other things, and hopefully she'll bring her A game with her.
I think if they're smart, they will. The season 2 could be fantastic, and it could right a lot of the wrongs from season 1. If they treat the series like they treated the sequel trilogy of films, it was nice while it lasted. So I'm excited for season 2, and I'm going to remain optimistic as much as I can.
I can't imagine that the first episode's going to start off on a very low note.
Oh, no, I think it's going to get strong. My big concern is that we're going to get that like mid-season lull again. But as long as they can rein in the fan service, do it when it makes sense, and just above all things, just tell a good story, a very good character-motivated story, I think we'll be good.
And, we here at Script to Screen, we very much value the script part as well as the screen part. So just make it great. With that being said, I want to thank everybody for their time.
Yes.
For listening. This has been one hell of a first Star Wars episode.
Yeah. We'll be back, hopefully, very soon to maybe start the, official, going on about the actual Star Wars movies and what we think of those. So
stay tuned for that. Make sure you like and subscribe to all of our channels. Remember, we are on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and our own website, Script to Screen, www.scriptoscreen.com, anchor.com/FM, or anchor.fm/scriptoscreen. Send us a message. Give us a comment. Any suggestions are appreciated. We'd love to hear from you. My name is Chris Kitchen. Thank you.
I'm Zach Strackman. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Bye.